Hey people, what's good? Mount Let the Hellfire. Hope everybody's doing well. It's been a couple weeks since I've been able to upload something. About to go away for another work trip. So I wanted to get the latest project up. As you can tell from the title of the video, we're going to be talking about a more or less custom build or custom assembled Knight's Armament M110K3 clone in 6.5 Creedmoor. And hey, if you like or dislike that AI generated thumbnail, let me know. It's been something I've been playing with, just trying to get better at the whole YouTuber thing. And speaking of which, since you're here, why don't you like the video, especially if you find it informative or entertaining, and to help my channel out, but also help tune your algorithm to show you more things from YouTube creators like myself. And if you want to see it from me specifically, consider subscribing to the channel, hitting the bell icon, and clicking all so you're notified anytime I do upload. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, or just want to shoot the crap, drop a comment or hit me up on the email at the channel description. And finally, if you think that anybody else would find this entertaining or informative, please consider sharing the video on your other social media. I really do appreciate it. Thank you. So M110K3, what is that? So at a high level, Eugene Stoner is the father of the AR, the AR-10, the AR-15, the AR-18, the Stoner Light Machine Gun, and several other designs while he was at Armalite. So in the early 90s, Reed Knight approached Eugene Stoner and was like, hey, how would you like to reimagine the AR-10 as you wanted to design with all the modern trappings of the mid-90s, such as metallurgy, better understanding of ballistics, better standardization of parts, and there was a lot more manufacturers and better things, and well, they agreed. So they came out with the SR25, SR Stoner rifle. This was, because Knight's Armament was involved in DoD and law enforcement sales with their suppressors for the MP5 and whatnot. They approached a couple different groups, and it was ODAs of 5th Special Forces Group and U.S. Army Special Forces Command, probably some other groups, I believe. 10th Group guys and Bad Tolls also looked at them, as well as Naval Special Warfare. They looked at them being the SR-25 match rifle, which was I believe, either a 20 or 24-inch bull barreled with a carbon fiber front end. And the Navy ended up adopting it as the Mark 11 Mod 0. And the update there was that instead of the carbon fiber rail, they wanted, the mill standard slots, the Picatinny rails, so to speak. And that's where the first version of the URX, well, it was called the RAS back then, RAS, Rail Accessory System, FF Free Float with the Picatinny. Now, fast forward, global war and terror is kicking off, and Iraq is kicking off. The Mark 11 has been adopted by a couple other folks. You have, general special operations using it, like Ranger Battalion. I believe it made its rounds in a couple other conventional infantry units as well, and was upgraded to the Mark 11 Mod 1 at some point, which used the M110 kind of birdcage style flash hider with an improved over-the-barrel military gate latch suppressor that gives it that look. Now, if you were enlisted at the time or nobody who was, or just played Modern Warfare, there was a lot of flux in the weapons. You had the M24s and M40A5s floating around. You had the green meanie, right? The Arctic Warfare or the Mark 13 ASR, the advanced sniper rifle floating around 300 Win Mag. You had various Barretts being used, and then the modernized M14 or the attempted modernization of the M14 to provide a SDMR, a squad designated marksmanship rifle, which almost everybody knows as the Mark 14 EBR, also sometimes the M39 EMR, depending on what branch of service had it. Cool gun. I owned one back in the day. I hate that I got rid of it because those Sage chassis are hard to find, but that's neither here nor there. So Big Army and the rest of the conventional forces looked around. They're like, hey, like this isn't working out. We got Mark 11s, we got Mark 14s, we got all this other bullcrap floating around. We need a squad designated marksmanship rifle. And well, what fit the bill? The Mark 11. So about 2007, 2008, the M110 is adopted into service. It is updated again, away with the RAS, and in comes the URX, the Universal Rail Extender, the URX2, which has that quad rail that, well, we all know and love, what gives it the signature look. And the rationale being that, hey, it's a big gas gun. People are used to the M4, M16, Mark 12 manual of arms, so why not adopt that? Now, fast forward to 2012, and now at the time, the M110, the Mark 11, whatever you want to call it, is almost 15 years old at this point. And there's new requirements as part of our, battlefield or our area responsibility, which is extended, not quite in Syria, but we were in Libya, we were in Yemen, we were in a couple other places doing contingency operations in the AFRICOM AOR, as well as the SOUTHCOM AOR. And the M110 is, well, it's long, it's heavy. When you put that barrel on it, it's longer and heavy. So Big Army sought out with another requirement, and it was, hey, 16-inch barrel with a certain weight characteristic, with a certain accuracy characteristic, but hey, keep the AR-10 platform. So Knight's Armament entered their M110K1, which was based off of their ECC, Enhanced Combat Carbine, because now Knight's was starting to re-ramp up their commercial sales to the civilian market. The M110K1 is probably one of the most distinctive looking of the M110 SR25 family, or as the ECC. Some of them had dimpled barrels, or ball end mill dimpled barrels to shave some weight. They had the URX 3.1 rail extension. So that was entered by Knights, the M110K1. And everybody knows who won the M110A1 contract. It was actually H&K. They entered in their version of the HK417. The 417 they entered was the German police version, the G28, and that was adopted as the M110A1 with an initial order, I believe, just north of 3,500 units. And it wasn't until 2018, 2019, just after I got out, that they relooked at the contracts. They relooked at the CSAS because H&K really couldn't fill them out, not at the amount they needed, but also combat operations were ramping down, but then ramped right back up in Syria towards the end of my enlistment. And with all that in mind, Army and a couple other groups did have other evaluations. Eventually, Knight's Armament entered in their M110K2. The M110K2 is a 16-inch variant with a lighter barrel, which is pretty much like, the APC, I believe, the Advanced Precision Carbine, because now at this point the commercial side went away from the E series and the URX3 and went to the URX4. One or two of those actually made it out. NS Armory sold one of them, the M110K2 evals. There's a guy on YouTube who has an M110K2 video that looks like exactly that one, maybe with some other modifications made to it. Now, why do I bring all this stuff up, right? Because, well, that leads us to this. K3 is the next number. So the K3 is a heavier profile barrel. Some of them were dimpled, some of them were not. Most of them used a 3-prong, though I do have seen examples with the close tine flash hider. They all use QDC, not the long tine that was on the K1, so you could use the modernized QDC PRG cans on them. But this is a bit anachronistic because there isn't a 6.5 version. However, if you've looked through old brochures or you just know Knights, Knights has done the M110 modification program. So what that means is that different agencies, different units could trade in their M110s to get modernized, but also rebarreled. They had versions that they did in 260 Rem, 243 Ruger, and 6.5 Creedmoor. So even though Big Army awarded the M110A1 CSAS, Combat Semi-Automatic Sniper System contract to H&K, going back to that right now, the Marine Corps, who was standing up MARSOC at the time, was like, ooh, we like that. That looks cool. They ended up adopting the K1. And then Special Forces, Army, Special Forces Green Berets, ended up adopting the K1 with 6.5 Creedmoor barrels. And this was during a time of flux in U.S. Special Forces Command, where they had the FN Herschel Mark 20, the SSR, the sniper support weapon, which is a 20-inch 6.5 Creedmoor version of the Mark 17, for better or worse, but it has a different fore-end architecture, non-reciprocal charging handle, I believe, and a different rear end as well. And then, of course, they also have the M110A3. So I think they probably got rid of their K1s by now since they've swapped over to the A3. And like depredation stuff. So that's what this is. This is the M110K3. I said I wasn't going to do a whole history, but I ended up yapping too much as I usually do. But hey, that's why I have timestamps. Anyway, how's this build coming together? So the SR25 uses this kind of slant cut on the receiver. This is also known as the DPMS high pattern because, well, in the 90s when they were first designed, like I said, there was more standardization around. Now, the only options you typically had for this were to either go with an old taken apart M110, a demilled one, or a Mark 11, or buy your own gun and then take it apart and then replace the parts, or SR25 Cartel. I believe there was somebody before SR25 Cartel that had some bad runs or some out-of-spec runs. I forget what they were called, but maybe that's not accurate information. So I'm glad I don't remember because I don't want them to get angry at me. Next, you have Centurion, and yes, I know it's not Centurion, it's Centurion. I was playing too much Fallout New Vegas at the time. Bear with me. So we're featuring Centurion arms again. So these are both from Centurion arms. Love those guys. Always awesome to deal with. I can't recommend their stuff enough. So they do what they call their Mark 11 profile series, which is their own take on it. So this will fit into their Mark 11 upper. The Mark 11 upper is notched. if you did find a URX6, I believe that would fit. I have to check my M110. And then also they have a tabbed section, as you could see here, for their own gas block. So technically this should use the Mod 2 gas system, but I'm not going to wait around to find freaking parts to put those things together. So I'm just going to stick their non-adjustable tabbed gas block on here with a rifle length and call it a day. But you can see this is a 16-inch 1.1 to 7.5 twist. Now, other people who do the uppers, SR25 cartel, like I mentioned, who usually sell through D. Wilson Operation Parts. I didn't get this direct from Centurion. I kind of feel bad. I'd rather my money go to them, but I guess it went to them in some aspects because I got both of these from Revival Defense for a decent deal. And the other people who do barrels are HTX Concepts, but they have more specialized cuts, right? Like, again, this is a lot more simplified. If you wanted like a more, even more clone correct, you have HTX Concepts, who's also sold through Operation Parts and a couple others. They have Mark 11 cuts, they have M110 specific, they have ECC specific, and they have the M110K1, because the M110K1 was kind of like this in between, as was the Delta EMC, where it had the double Picatinny gas block with the military gate latch, you know, that was double pinned, but then it also had the long-time QDC muzzle devices on top of it, so you could use either or at the time, which made a lot of sense. But, well, I don't have access to an old gen QDC, nor do I have access to an M110 over the barrel suppressor, so here we go with this guy. So it isn't 6.5, and I'm just pretending that, oh, I don't know, maybe the Army was like, hey, we want a heavier profile SDMR in 6.5 Creedmoor. This is what I would issue if I was running the military. So, hey, Pete Hegseth, pick a new Secretary of the Army and, you know, appoint me as Chief of Staff and give me $2 billion and a bunch of M110s. Thank you. So that's how you assemble this, and then everything else will be Knights. URX4 shims, very, very hard to find. I already have a URX4. It's inbound. These are from Spikes. They work. No big deal. Now, the thing about these Centurions, they're 5/8 threaded, not 3/4. So this 3/4 face mount stuff won't work. But this 5/8 will. This was about 120 bucks. I believe Operation Parts has them in stock, and they even have 3/4 3 prongs as of the time of recording. I think today's the 19th or something like that. And then a old overrun KAC double ambi, though you could use a Radiant Raptor, something else. I'm trying to keep most of the parts like as KAC as I can on the front, and then like I mentioned, the URX4 will come in. I will need to hunt down a URX4 barrel wrench, and of course, in various parts of these videos, I'll show you how to do the install of the muzzle device, do the install of the URX4, put this all together, and then I need to get a bead on a LMT or on a KAC carbon cutter bolt carrier group, which, you know, this build is just going to end up being really expensive. So how much is it? Well, these damn KAC charging handles are like $250. This was $150, and then if you want to, you know, run a MAMS or run a 2-port brake in 5/8, if you could even freaking find one, you know, double that, triple that, right? The upper, I think, was like $285. I don't want to speak too much, so upper, I will flip up some pricing for this, and then barrel, I will flip up some pricing for this, but I'm pretty sure it was a couple $100. HTX is about the same, 500 to 700 range. Ignore these guys. I mean, they'll eventually be part of the build. I had a spare end gall, and this is the QDC, so I'm looking forward to having more barrel lengths to shoot this on, 16-inch. The tab gas block and whatnot will probably be like $100 with a tube. It'll be anywhere from like $600 to $800 to find a bolt carrier group, and then the lower receiver, they're pretty much readily available, though you could use an LMT lower or anything else if you cared to do so as well. And the URX4, the 15-inch is the proper version for this. You could typically find, you should be able to get them at $550, but secondary market, I see them going anywhere from like $750 to, you know, $1,300, which is pretty crazy. But hey, the URX4s will start to disappear. URX6 would make this a K6. So there is a K6. There's one out there that I've seen on Instagram. The guy, again, didn't really go into too much detail. He just showed it off in the video. You would see that in, like, if you look online for, like, you know, K2, K3, you won't find K4 and you won't find K6. The K6, to the best of my knowledge, is a 16-inch URX6 equipped version. So a slightly bigger brother. The K5 is a 14.5, which is the ACC, the Advanced Combat Carbine. One of those builds would be pretty cool to do one day as well. So maybe I'll do that one next, especially if more URX4s start to drop as Knights purges out their inventory, getting ready for the SR25K and KS1 kind of refresh, right? Because the ACC has been due for it, or the A series, for a while. So that's all I got for you guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. Sorry for yapping about the history of all this stuff. And again, if you found this informative, entertaining, please do like it. Even if you didn't like it, it does help the channel. And, you know, I want to keep growing the channel, investing more and doing more, especially as I have more time, which, you know, startup life is rough. You know, single dad's life is rough, not to whine about it, but, you know, I wish I had more time to do this because this is a lot of fun. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see more and keep up with the series. And as usual, you know, drop a comment down below for any feedback, comments, questions, concerns, bitches, gripes, moans, complaints, and share the video to anybody who will find it useful. As always, folks, thank you very much. Mount Let the Hellfire. I hope wherever you are, you're doing great. Eat more steaks, lift more weights. Stay safe out there. If you're going through some shit, feel free to reach out to somebody and talk to them. I know how that is. I can never figure out how to close out these videos, but that is all for now. See ya.